When I was first asked to do this talk, I had a good idea who the audience would be, and I was like, oh my God, what have I got to say? And for weeks I really was scratching my head, and I was like, what do you think they want to hear? And then I thought, well, at the end of it, it's a celebration. And I think, without a doubt, service user involvement at Spectrum is something that should be celebrated. I've only been here since October in this role, so I won't be blowing my own trumpet when I talk about the tenacious attitude of the staff that has built a culture of service user involvement, so much so that it's not the add-on, oh yeah, we've got to get service user involvement, it really does just happen. So we're talking about service user involvement and then a little bit about the way forward. So I honestly think this is probably the most important slide of mine today, because I think service user involvement means different things to different people, and if we're really going to work together and move on and increase service user involvement for the better, we've also got to really be singing from the same song sheet. And service user involvement isn't always easy. It takes a lot of commitment, a lot of effort, a lot of time. Sometimes it can be disappointing, but we've got to keep at it. But if we understand why we're doing it, that's a bit of a push to keep us going. So I think it's morally the right thing to do. No decision about me without me. Now that's the easy bit. I think if we ask most of us, we'd probably say that that's probably a good thing to do. Understanding bipolar from the inside, and again, that's really quite true. You know, I've got a diagnosis of bipolar. I've got people in my family with a diagnosis of bipolar, and in my husband's family, and people still say things that really surprise me, and I think, oh, I never thought of that before. Ensure our work is anchored in the priorities of people who receive the interventions, and I think with the best will in the world, we're living in an environment where, you know, people have got massive time constraints, everybody wants to see value for money, people get pulled in a different direction, you've got somewhere where you've got to finish, and the little bit that can go might be what you really first started to be the most important thing, but when you've got a service user there, either on your surge or your focus group, they'll bring it back. So it's actually really brave to have service users involved right the way through, because you're getting away with nothing. You really are brought back all the time to what we're really about. And provide novel ideas and perspectives. Often when we're in meetings where there's, you can have your academics and service users, grant holders, what have you, a service user can come up with something so simple, and everyone's like, wow. You know, and it's like, without, we can get carried away almost, and you need sort of fresh blood and people coming in and reminding us of sometimes what the basics are. And challenge perceived wisdom. We're not behind the door, bipolar people, and asking questions isn't something that they struggle with, but it's great to actually be able to say, can you tell me why you're doing that? What is the point? And sometimes it's just what you need to be actually sort of the way we've always done it, or what have you. Actually, when you go through it, it makes you think, why do you bother? It's a hard word. Help to cut through obstacles to engagement in research, and then that's a really big one for lots of reasons. It's not just about somebody's contacts outside. So say for me, I run a bipolar group in Stockport. It's not just about that. Sometimes it's lots of people who have been involved in services haven't had the best of experiences, and therefore there can be this sort of suspicion of why you really want to involve them. Oh yeah, you want to get yourself another paper. You know, it's not really sort of understood. Whereas if you've got a service user there who will actually say, look, no, I can talk you through it, I can tell you why, there's a bit of trust thing broken down. Describe and disseminate findings in accessible ways, and that can be in terms of just actually being in within the bipolar community, you know, oh gosh, what, I've heard about this, I've heard about that, blah, blah, blah. Or it might be just reading a paper and putting it into the words that somebody who's not an academic can understand. So again, service user involvement. I'm sure if we went to Liverpool University or Manchester University and tell us what you mean by service user involvement, I think it would probably be different everywhere. But this is the reality of what happens at Spectrum. So we have service user reference groups, which my understanding is like the sort of overarching of a new study that will guide the study from the beginning right through to the end. As the study goes along, we'll have focus groups, so people who the study is meant for, whether that be carers or service users or what have you, will come along and give feedback. We are really chuffed that we've got an advisory panel at Spectrum, and basically that's a group of people who have a diagnosis of bipolar disorder or bipolar symptoms and carers. We meet once a month at the moment, and basically they're the sort of like overarching sort of Spectrum service user people who really we bounce ideas off, they give us ideas, they support me in my job, and it's only been going since March, but it's been absolutely really beneficial, and we hope to expand it. We have some of the advisory panel have perhaps done some training for staff at the centre, so things like skids and things like that, and also giving talks, for students. We've had a conference last year, hope to have another one, a service user conference, which was really, really good. We have Spectrum Connect, which is a massive database where people that are interested in Spectrum sign up to that, and then we give them regular information about what's going on, about studies, but lots of other things as well that might be of interest. We do a lot of networking with people like Bipolar UK and Mind and what have you, because at the end of the day, the more people you work with together, the better things are. And Spectrum also have service user researchers, which I am one. But I've gone through that and it's like, yeah, that's a lot. But can you imagine for every single study, we're looking for like a surge, we're looking for, that's without the participants. It's a massive, massive job, and we all of us work really, really hard to get people involved all the time, but it's not always easy. So, just a few more of the advantages. Researchers benefit from lived experience, knowledge and expertise. This is for the service user role. Ensure that research is based on what the target recipients feel is relevant and beneficial. I mean, I suppose that's pretty obvious really, isn't it? If you're going to want people to engage in the therapies at the end. Could you imagine if you do sort of a 5-year study and then you say, well, here what we've got for, and you say what we never wanted in the first place? It's really important. Research is kept focused and on track, like we said before. Service users offer an independent view of what should happen, and that's really, really important because, as I said before, people have sort of organisational things that they have to do. They've got grant holders who ask questions, blah, blah, blah. A service user doesn't have that, they're bothered about me. What is this going to do for me and people like me? So again, it's bringing it back to what it's all about really. And also often people say to me why they'd like to get involved is it's a good opportunity to be able to help people make a contribution to help others. And there's something about that that I think most people really like. Yeah, you see, we're not daft either, right? You see, there's some hidden extras as well, because obviously what it's all about is about research and getting good psychological therapies for people like me. But there was also something in it that service users get as a byproduct. Like it initiates or develops a routine, and I think we need to remember that sometimes, me included, if you've got a bipolar diagnosis, you've probably been sometime in your life, really, really not knowing whether you're coming or going. You literally don't know. There's nothing to get up for. What's the point? And often, I've had people say to me, you've got to get out of bed. You've got to get out of bed. You're like, for what? For what? My finance pretty crap. Why am I going to get earlier to make it crapper? But if you offer people things like voluntary work that we're doing at Spectrum, perhaps as a participant and in one of the studies or what have you, I really wish I'd been offered that, because it gives people something to do, or at least a choice. Increased self-esteem and confidence, actually being able to participate in something when there may be times when you've been told that perhaps that environment might be too stimulating for you, you're going to make yourself ill, you need to steer away. One of our advisory panel, who unfortunately isn't here today, when I asked him if he'd like to be part of the panel, because I felt he had so much to offer, he said, why would they want me? And I was like, I was shocked. And again, it's remembering, bipolar can have devastating effects on people's lives for short periods of time, and that giving them some opportunities, giving us some opportunities or choices can be really beneficial. Feeling valued, again, making a contribution, developing new skills. I mean, my learning curve has been like that since October. I couldn't attach it, and again, it's about sort of having that, understanding that sometimes, and you can't speak generically for bipolar people because we're all so different, but sometimes somebody like me, I've been in and out of work all my life, so the email era I missed, sort of. And then you arrive in Spectrum and you're like catching up. But again, it's about that environment and the culture at Spectrum where people support each other and help, and it really makes a difference. And I think sometimes those are the ingredients that are hard to capture. If you say what makes Spectrum work, it's the people. It is definitely the people, because they have, they all want the same things, they're working in the same direction. And again, having a purpose, something to get up for, something to do. Yeah, another ingredient of Spectrum is about being around positive people, and it doesn't always happen. You get people for the very best of reasons tell you all the things you can't do, and whatever you do, don't go into a stimulating environment. You never know what will happen. So being around people that actually are like that, and don't sort of like follow you around all day and threaten a straight jacket or whatever. It's good. And also as well, I think a massive thing that Spectrum has done for a lot of people, service users, is giving people a chance. I think it's very difficult when you're recruiting for things like studies, because you have to get the numbers, don't you? Otherwise your study's not going to work. But that really remembering what it's all about and just offering the chance and letting people make their own minds up. I think they've got a really good balance with that. Some of the considerations for service user development, and at the beginning I said about the benefits of service user involvement, and there's a lot to celebrate at Spectrum, but it isn't always easy, and I think we need, as sort of like as trusts, as organisations or what have you, to have the same beliefs and the same goals, but things fall down. So, for example, human resources, I think it would be really helpful if they had sort of an understanding of the nature of individual needs to support managers and service users, and that's right at the beginning in terms of employment, right the way through. So, say for example, when I applied for my job, which was actually in Manchester Mental Health Trust, as I said, I had a very checkered working career, and I just couldn't remember half the dates and jobs that I'd had, and it was a real issue for them, and it was difficult because they understood their perspective. They've got to keep people safe, and they want to know that they're getting the right people for the job. There's absolutely no way I could actually give a squeaky clean list of the jobs that I had, because I just couldn't remember. Also, occupational health. I think it would be really helpful again to have some training for occupational health in mental health issues, and not being overcautious. And I think it's really difficult because I know I can give my own example. And one of my ex-colleagues, they when well, I'll give his example. When he went to see occupational health, they said that they thought the job would make him ill. And considering you needed to be a service user to have the job, it doesn't make sense, you know. But you know, if you've got somebody, an occupational health member of staff, who doesn't understand sort of bipolar or other issues, it might be very difficult for them to support you to get into your job. And also, how do we manage the financial transactions that meet the requirements of service users? It's not fact that, no, the point I was trying to get there wasn't actually financial. It was more about when, as a member of staff, and I could use myself as an example, the nature of bipolar for me means that sometimes I work quite quickly, sometimes slower. At the moment, it doesn't necessarily mean that I might need some time off work, but it could. So say, come September, I might need, say, a month off work. Who does the job? Do you know, we can't pretend we need service users, and then when they're not there, let on that the job's being done, because it can't, and I'm not sure what the answer is. Because, you know, it is very difficult. It is very, very difficult, but it's something that I think we do need to acknowledge, otherwise, where do we move on? And something, because it is such a growing field of service users, thank God, people talk a lot about sort of career progression. So if you know, as a profession, and people being recognised for the job that they're doing and their experience. Again, I'm not quite sure how that would work, but I think it's a discussion that we could have at some stage.